Good evening, everyone. This is BritSimon. Bienvenido a mi channel. So I'm going to be talking to our friends from South America region today. I know that I'd like to do the YouTube video in Spanish, but my Spanish isn't really good enough, and my wife is too tired to come and help, I'm afraid. So one day we might get Mrs. BritSimon on the channel to try and translate for me, but tonight I'll have to do the best I can, speak in English, and you'll have to translate into Spanish if that's what you need. Okay, so for the last few nights, I've presented a series of videos analyzing the CEAC data for each of the regions to try and give some idea of how the data looks, and also project what will happen in terms of the final cutoffs. So let me get right into it. This region is a little bit, in a sense, it's easy because there's a consistent range of case numbers throughout the region. It doesn't go down. The distribution doesn't go down over the number range. However, the largest number of selectees, obviously, is for Cuba, and we don't really have that much history on how Cuban applicants will fare at the interview, whether they will be issued visas at a high rate or not. We don't have enough history to sort of to figure that out, particularly at the Havana embassy. So we could probably look back at previous times, but it's easier, frankly, to just say, look, there's going to be a bit of an unknown. We also have the other two main countries in South America is Ecuador and Peru, and of course those two countries, you know, everybody's got good desire. In South America, everyone has got good desire, but I have to say those three largest countries are fairly poor countries where the costs of the process and the immigration process itself must be pretty difficult to bear. So will that play an impact in the process? I don't know. That's something that you would know better than I know, like you in the country would know better than I know. So so anyway, let's have a look at the data as it stands. So the first thing you need to be aware of is that South America, like some other regions, had a big increase, 51% increase in the number of selectees. And that right there is the story that is going to be of most concern to higher case numbers. So if we look at the comparison between DV2023 and DV2024, we can see that there is an increase in case numbers of about half again, because there's a 51% increase in selectees. We can see that the density rate was 42%. I predicted 47%. I predicted 54%, and the previous year had a 56% density rate. Density rate tells you about how many holes there are. So for every 1,000 cases, how many holes are there? Well, our actual density rate in DV 2024 is 47%, okay? And if we look at the data as it appears on Zarthisius's excellent website, if we go, let me just pull this across for you. And let me just show you how the data looks for South America. Okay, that's the data. You can see I've given the holes rate as 47%, but you can see that that's sort of a consistent number all the way through the range, unlike some of the other regions. And there's little spikes in each 1,000 or each 100 range, but yeah, 100 range. But that's roughly speaking about 47%. You can see there's already been good progress right up to the current number. So the region is already moving as we would expect it to be moving. So, okay, we'll go back to the spreadsheet a moment and give you a few other data points that you might need to know. The highest case number in DV 2023 that was highest selectee number was 3158, and the region went current to 3150. So it almost went fully current for the whole region in DV 2023. However, if we again look at Zarthisis's site, let me just show you that again. We have a look here for DV23. We have a look here and have a look at this data. This is DV 2023. Last year, South America received 1,856 visas, which is significantly more than the quota for DV than there should have been for DV 2023. Should have been a number around about 1,500. And the reason it was allowed to exceed the quota was because Africa underfilled. So Africa didn't use all of its visas, and there's a rule that says the other embassies can share in a certain proportion. They can share the unused visas from one region to the other regions. And that's what happened, and it gave South America a pretty good boost. Hence, even though there are a lot of selectees in DV 2023, they almost all got current. Now, will that happen again? I don't know. I tend to think Africa is going to do better this year in DV 2024 than it did in DV 2023. And we'll see less unused visas from Africa being shared to other regions. Could be wrong. Africa is a difficult region to fill because it has a very low derivative rate. And so it takes an awful lot of selectees to actually yield the number of visas that they should get. Okay, so back to South America. The derivative rate for South America is about 2.04. And there are 2,617 cases overall, on which are those 5,331 selectees in total, right? So around about 2 cases per case number. What else? Final cutoff, highest case number. On the highest case number is 5574. Okay, so let's look at our projection spreadsheet, and we'll see what we're projecting. Oh, before I do that, actually, let me show you so far on this sheet. Let me show you so far. This is the sheet that shows for South America, for each of the embassies, how many cases have been scheduled so far. And I'm looking at that because I want to see, is there evidence that, at least for the 3 largest countries, is there evidence that the embassies are actually working well and won't be building up a backlog? And sure enough, we see that Lima and Ecuador, Peru and Ecuador, their embassies are doing fairly well, not as well as I would like, to be honest, but not a massive backlog by any means. And Havana has scheduled so far 271 cases, which is a lot. And Havana is doing very well. I'm glad to see that. So within the region, 415 cases have already been scheduled, and that's a good thing. And that gives us a clue how things are going for the year. Remember, scheduling has been completed up until the end of February. So it's 5 months of scheduling that has got us to these numbers, 415. And the next 4 or 5 months from now will be much busier than that. We'll see, we'll see quite a lot more capacity being released by the embassies for these interviews, and the pace of the movement will be quite a bit faster. Right, so we can now, with the information we've got, we can actually start to talk about a projection. So what I did was I took the cases scheduled, the number of cases scheduled in DV 2023. And I've assumed a non-response rate of 15%. And that means that we could have as little as 1,212 cases that would yield 1,054 actual scheduled cases. Now, to be honest, I don't really believe this number. This comes out at a range, or well, gives us a range or a lowest case number of 2,216 that would be a cutoff point. So technically, it's possible that 2216 would be the cutoff, but I very much doubt that's going to be the case. I think actually we'll see that quite a bit higher than that. And the other way of looking at this is to come down from how many cases in DV2023 went current in order to yield the 1,054 cases. Well, 1,767 cases were current, and that yielded the 1,054. Now, just to show you where I'm getting these numbers from, in case that's not making sense, let me show you where the numbers are coming from. First of all, the 1,054 number comes from DV2023 data. For South America, 1,054 cases were scheduled, representing 2,328 people. Of those 1,054, 882 went to their interviews and were issued. That's a pretty good number, actually. That's quite a low number of refusals and 221G. So that tells me that if the embassy's capacity is good, their issuances will also be very good because refusals are low. Okay? There was quite a number of ready cases, 317 people left on ready. That will be partly because of the cancellations that happened after September the 6th, when the DV process was abruptly stopped on September the 6th. And so quite some number of those cases will be cases that had their interviews lined up in September and then had those interviews cancelled. So although 1,054 people were scheduled, that was actually too many. It was unnecessary to schedule that many. So we would expect, in a sense, to not quite need that many cases to be scheduled in DV 2024. Okay, so that's where we get the 1,054 number from, which is that number there, and then I add 15% to that number to give us 1,212 cases. Now, if we then look at this number, the case that went, the DV 2023 highest case that went current, and how many cases were there? So for that, we look at the 23 data, and we say, okay, how many cases actually went current? And if you scroll down, you'll see that all of these cases from 3148 and up back to 1, all of those went current, right? And if I just do the selection here, how many cases? That's 1,767 cases. All right, so 1,767 cases were made current, and 1,054 of those cases actually went to and got their interviews scheduled, right? So if I take that number, the 1,767, it gives us a DV 2024 equivalent number of 3738, right? So in theory, our range of cases within which there would be a cutoff is between 2,200, 2,200, and 3,750. In reality, I think that it will probably be more like 3,000. I don't think we'll see it going to 3,750. I think 2,200 is going to be too low. I think we'll see something about 3,000, maybe 3,100 or 3,200. That will be kind of the cutoff I would expect to see, which would be about the same number as last year, but that's just based on the process working a little bit better and not having the cutoff at the last minute for September 6th, like the cutoff, and having less quota rolled over from other regions, right? So I've allowed for those other aspects there. Okay, so that's my projection there. 3,000, 3,100, 3,200 perhaps, but really it could be anything in that range. Now, if you've got a case number higher than 3,750, then you're at what I would say would be extremely risky, right? You've got a high risk of not going current. If you've got a number lower than 2,200, then you're not carrying very much risk at all. But you know, it's very difficult to project how things will go, particularly with such an interesting region in terms of the three main countries being such relatively poor countries. Will that stress or create problems where people won't turn up for their interview or won't even submit their DS260 in higher numbers than in other regions? We'll have to wait and see whether that happens. But as I say, I think the number range is unlikely to go above 3,750. Okay. So that's it. I'm hoping that that's making sense for you. Just showing you a little bit of the data there, giving you a flavor of the data. You can go yourself to Zarthisius's website, which we've just been looking at, this website. Please do go there and have a look at the data yourself. You can download the files for 23 and for 24. And so you can have a look at the same data I'm using to talk to you this evening. And you can decide for yourself what you think is going to be the cutoff. Or you can just wait and see, right? No need to worry about it. If you would rather just wait and see how things go, that makes perfect sense. It's a very normal way to think about it. Okay, everybody, we'll call that a night. I'm hoping this makes sense to you. I'm hoping you enjoyed the video, but also got something useful from it. And please do let me know on my blog at BritSimonSays.com. If you would like to ask any questions, you can ask them there, or of course you can post a question under this video and I'll try and answer you on YouTube also. All right. Thank you, everybody. Give me a thumbs up on the video and please do subscribe to the channel. Actually, I don't hear enough from selectees in South America. So please, a few more of you, please reach out, touch base. You can even type your questions in Spanish. That will be okay. All right, everybody. Have a good night. Bye-bye.